wonderful speaker this evening. We have Catherine Gemmell along for the ride tonight. And Catherine is just the queen of marine in Scotland. She is the manager now for policy with Marine Conservation Society around about the UK, but she also has a second hat, and that's director of the Moray Ocean Community. So this is a group that have been set up in Moray, so around about the Inverness type area, for those of you not familiar with Scottish geography. And this is a fantastic group that's been set up, and they're taking action. So it's a community group that's taking action for their local coastline, looking at exploring, celebrating, and protecting their coastal spaces. And this is some work that Durham Wildlife Trust, we're starting to step into ourselves. We want to work with communities around the Northeast to really think about their blue spaces and what they can do to celebrate and explore and protect them themselves as well. So hopefully this evening might just be a little bit of inspiration there and a chance to see what's going on around the rest of the UK as well. So way up north there, see how other people are taking action for their blue spaces. But without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Catherine here, and I will let you carry on with the talk there. So thank you for joining us this evening, Catherine.
Oh, thank you so much. Queen of Marine is totally going on my LinkedIn profile after this. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for giving up part of your evening to come and hear me speak. I have got a few slides, mostly just pictures to really try and bring the ocean and the coast into the winter nights, isn't it? They are getting lighter. It is making a difference. I know up here when I start work at 8 o'clock, it's light now, and oh, doesn't it just make a massive difference? But yeah, Blair's asked me to come along tonight to talk to you about Moray Ocean Community, a coastal community group that I helped found a couple of years ago. And I really wanted to just kind of tell you our story, our sea story of how we began, how we got to where we are now, what we're planning for the future. As hearing all the brilliant work that you've been doing as part of the Stronger Shores work, it might hopefully be helpful that some of the hard work we had to do on our own, we would love to share that information with people in case there might be similar groups that could get set up along your coastline as well. So as Blair mentioned, I do wear a few different hats. So one, the day job, which I've just finished, is working for the Marine Conservation Society, and I'm one of their policy and advocacy managers. So I work mostly on marine litter policy. So if any of you take part in Beach Watch, the National Citizen Science Beach Litter Programme, your data comes to me and I turn it into briefings, respond to government consultations, run campaigns to try and reduce beach litter. So things like the carrier bag charge, bans on single-use plastic, the upcoming deposit return scheme for bottles and cans, that's all part of the day job that I get to do. And this picture is me outside the Scottish Parliament, as for the first 8 years working for the charity, I was their Scotland Conservation Officer. Then 2 years ago, that remit went UK-wide. So actually just last week, I was down in Cardiff with running events in the Senedd, and I've been down to Westminster a few times as well to really kind of bring the work that volunteers like yourselves do on our coasts right into the heart of Parliament and government and policy decision makers so they can be doing their job to make sure that they're protecting the ocean too. And then my kind of middle hat, that's me with Jasper, my Springer Spaniel pup, who comes on lots of beach adventures, as you can imagine. But I very much kind of call myself an ocean optimist. So I'm an ocean optimist at heart, and I love this kind of term. As for me, it kind of means I'm optimistic about the future of our ocean because of people like yourselves coming together on a dark Tuesday night to listen to me witter on, knowing that you care so much. It's also the optimism and the joy that I get from spending time next to the ocean. So this is a picture of me at Burghead, a local coastal village to me, where I do the shore watch surveys for whales and dolphins. I'm a huge fan of citizen science, which you'll find out later on as well, and try and do as much as I can to keep my own ocean optimism up. But the hat that I'm definitely firmly wearing tonight, I've actually got it next to me, I should put my beanie on, is as one of the directors of Moray Ocean Community to tell you about, what we get up to when we're not doing the day job, and how we get to enjoy our time next to the amazing Moray coast. So just obviously the whole talk is about who we are. We're affectionately known as MOC locally rather than the full Moray Ocean Community. And basically we're a coastal community group. We're really passionate about citizen science. We're all wanting to learn new things. That's what brought a lot of us together, and ultimately having a really positive impact on our local marine environment here in the Moray Firth. So here just are some pictures of a few of my fellow directors and members and volunteers getting stuck into whether it's snorkeling, seaweed surveys, or literally just enjoying time in the sun on the beach. So I wanted to introduce you to the rest of the team. It isn't just me helping run the Coastal Community Group. These are all my kind of fellow directors, as we are set up as a community interest company. So we're directors on the board, all volunteers. But one of the decisions that we took to become a CIC rather than a charity was it did mean that as directors we could get paid for our time if needed, and that really suited some of the volunteers coming on board who were maybe looking for work. Could they secure funding to help kind of run the organisation? So that was one of the main reasons we went down the CIC route versus charity. But even right in those early days, we did kind of seek advice from loads of different people. And I remember speaking to Alan of now Young Sea Changers Scotland, who literally set up a charity on his own. And he said, obviously, there's a lot of benefits to becoming a charity, but it is also a lot of extra steps and would have taken a very long time, probably about 18 months for us to get set up. Whereas the CIC literally took us a few months to get everything in the progress so we could kind of get started straight away. But to kind of give you an idea of where everybody's based, I'm based in a town called Forres. Terry's then up on the Black Isle in Cromarty. Lynn's a little bit further east in Speyside. We've got Robin and Gianluca and Francis in Inverness. And then Orshi is our newest director, who literally just joined us before Christmas, also based in Inverness. And you'll notice that Francis, he started as one of our directors, and then he stepped down from the board to be able to really lead our seagrass stuff. All of the seagrass work we've done, we kind of call him Captain Seagrass, and he's done some brilliant work. So he's now leading all of our volunteering, and it's great having his expertise to kind of move forward our seagrass in that direction. And then I just kind of nabbed this from our website. A lot of the time, funders especially are always wanting, like, if you could put yourself into a paragraph, what would you be? So we kind of went along with a few volunteers trying to describe that kind of just feeling of being part of a group and all caring about the same thing and wanting to get out there into a few words. So a lot of this will probably resonate with a lot of you with the work that you've been doing as well. And Blair kind of mentioned it. We're really passionate about exploring, protecting, but ultimately also celebrating our amazing local coastline. And we really are wanting to create space to bring more people together to really get to know their coastline. A lot of people don't even spend that much time at the coast, even though they live next to it. They don't know what amazing wildlife's there, what protected areas are there. So we're really trying to create kind of activities and space to bring lots of people and connect, and then hopefully want to then care for their local marine environment as well. But it's quite funny when we've gone through all these strategy days together, one thing that really came out on top was we always want to have fun. Everything we're doing at the end of the day, we're doing voluntary, we're doing in our free time, similar to yourselves. So although the work's really important, we always have to make sure that we're having fun at the same time. So Blair mentioned a little bit of geography, so I didn't know if it was useful just to kind of throw a map out there as well. So that star next to Inverness is up where we're based, but the Moray Firth is literally from Fraserburgh over on the east coast, just above Aberdeen, all the way to Wick in the north there. That's the entire Moray Firth marine region. As a Moray Ocean community, though, we're probably mostly kind of focused on the inner Moray Firth. We've done things as far east as kind of Macduff, which is past Elgin, you can see on the map there. And a lot of the stuff kind of ends then at Cromarty, which is that little firth you can see just above the Inverness star there. But because we have that kind of wide remit, we have volunteers who take part in things all the way along that area. And we're always really keen to bring more people on board. And obviously the joy of Scotland is you're never that far away from the coast. So we've also done lots of work with different coastal community groups across the different parts of Scotland. But how did it all begin? So I'm going to take you back to the beginning. This is me, and you might just recognize behind the mask and snorkel there, Lynn, one of my fellow directors. And for me, my journey started with Moray Ocean Community through a LinkedIn message and a snorkel. Lynn reached out to me on LinkedIn and had seen that I was back in the Forres area, and she was looking for a snorkel buddy. Would I like to go? And I was like, that would be amazing. I learned to scuba dive at Aberdeen Uni when I was there, and I've dived kind of all over the country, all over the world. Ironically, since I started working for the Marine Conservation Society, my diving career absolutely disappeared. So I was really keen to get back in the water, and snorkeling is just so easy, so accessible, had all the stuff. I was like, yes, let's go. And we went for this amazing snorkel in Cummingston. It was just so nice to meet someone who is just so passionate. I don't think I've met someone else who is so passionate and also the best networked person I've ever met. So every group needs a Lynn, someone who is not afraid to reach out to people, to ask the questions, to send messages on LinkedIn. As that was when we kind of realized, oh, we would really love to have more people to do this with. And if we want to do it, I bet you there's other people who want to get out snorkeling and find out more about what's happening in the Moray Firth. And then the other kind of piece of the puzzle for me was I had just started working reduced hours. I went from Monday to Friday 9 till 5 to Monday to Thursday 8 till 5:45 with the idea I could have my Fridays to do non-marine litter stuff. As much as I loved my job, loved working on marine litter, I was really keen to kind of do what Stronger Shores have done, learn about some of the amazing other species out there. What else could I do as a volunteer? So I came across Nature Scott's community-led Marine Biodiversity Monitoring Handbook. Bit of a mouthful, but it's a fantastic read and I would highly recommend it. It's free to download from the Nature Scott website. And it basically gave you all the different methods and things that you might want to do to start surveying and monitoring your local coastline. And one of the main things that the guide then highlighted was join a local coastal community group and start getting involved. So I was like, that would be amazing. So I emailed Nature Scott and was like, I'm based in Moray. I would love to join a local group. Do you know where they are? And I got a reply being like, so there isn't any coastal community groups in the Moray Firth region at all. Do you want to set one up? So that kind of LinkedIn message with Lynn, looking at this and wanting to start setting it up was really where the journey started of how can we actually pull people together. So here are some photos from our early days from a lot of the people who really kind of came together and helped start shape what Moray Ocean Community would be in the early days. We were just a loose connection and collection of people who lived across the Moray Firth area, were really interested in the coast. And again, I have to admit, Lynn is definitely the glue that brought us all together, whether it was through crochet classes, through work, through people that she'd met at a sauna. She was brilliant at finding all these people and just saying, hey, do you want to get together and see if we can actually make something happen? So the first thing that really kind of started to solidify where we might go as a coastal community group was the seagrass work. And Frances did such good groundwork for this early on. As part of the monitoring handbook, Nature Scott also have a small fund that coastal community groups can apply to for a kit to help with any of the monitoring that's in the handbook. So Frances went and applied for it and we were successful. And we got things like the GPS, we got quadrats, we got rucksacks and rulers and waterproof notebooks. And we even got a few wetsuits and kit to be able to help us get in the water to do some in-water monitoring as well. So that really got us going. We're like, right, we've got equipment now. Let's get out there. Let's start monitoring and start recording. And Francis was absolutely fantastic at getting out. He was mapping new seagrass beds that had never been mapped before. And the joy of that monitoring handbook is then there's a method for that data to go straight back to Nature Scott. So straight back into the Scottish Government kind of monitoring and regulatory work as well. And we've had some brilliant successes there where thanks to mapping that Francis and volunteers have done, it's actually helped with kind of development planning. So there was a development proposed for a certain area. And because we'd mapped the seagrass, it then didn't go ahead. And I think this is kind of why citizen science is so important. We know that government scientists don't have the capacity and don't have the funding to do it all. NGOs, we don't have the funding or the money or the capacity to do it at all. Academics are the same. So I think this is where coastal community groups or any kind of nature conservation groups have such an important role, is to fill those gaps, get that data back to those decision makers so it can really make an impact. And then how we kind of started getting more people involved was we went to WhatsApp. Who doesn't go to WhatsApp now? And how many WhatsApp groups are we all in? Far too many, probably. But Lynn created our Rising Tides, our Moray Ocean Community chat. And this was almost before Moray Ocean Community as a name was actually created. And we just basically had people starting to pop in who lived locally and wanted to start getting involved. You'll now see that I just took this screenshot today. We're up to 99 members in that chat, which is just incredible, considering it started with only a handful of us. And then this picture is of the day that we actually formalised then as a community interest company back in March in 2024. And I guess the reason again that we did formalise was it was brilliant that Nature Scott were happy to give us that money for the equipment into a personal bank account, but that's quite a rarity. most of the time funders want you to have an established bank account as a charity, an incorporated group, a CIC. So we thought if we want to kind of secure funding to keep this work going, we probably do need to kind of formalize, get things in place so we can make sure we can keep that going. And then that was brilliant. Once we got set up, we've had some brilliant success with funding. So Sea Changers have been such a massive support to us and have been absolutely brilliant. So these photos are actually from a learning trip that we did. This was down to the Isle of Cumbrae and to Millport, where we worked with the Field Studies Centre to do a snorkel upskilling course. So this was kind of a group of kind of volunteers from the WhatsApp chats who were like, yeah, I would love to come. That would be great. And we went for a long weekend and we did everything from, just basic snorkel skills to surveying skills, monitoring skills, ID skills, and also just a chance to spend some time together in a different place. And that was all because we had the Sea Changers Learning Fund that we could apply to. And I didn't even realize we could do things like this. So if you're thinking about setting up a group or building on kind of what's happened already, have a look for these funds, go on those trips, make those connections to other coastal communities, because there's such an advantage to us still learning. It was sometimes almost a little bit hard to take the money because we're like, oh, this almost feels like a holiday. But we're like, no, we are going, we are learning, and then we're taking it back as well, which is what all coastal communities should definitely be getting stuck into. And then the next bit for us that really kind of ramped up our capacity was working with fauna and flora. So fauna and flora were absolutely amazing. They actually had a Kickstarter capacity grant and a project running, where they kind of put out the call for coastal community groups to apply. And it was the idea if you were a new group and you just needed to help formalize, how do you get policies in place? Do you need equipment? What advice do you need to kind of have a sustainable organization? So we applied and we got it. I think we were one of 4 coastal community groups across Scotland who were awarded not only the funding, but the actual project capacity as well. So in all these photos, there's directors and volunteers, but there's also importantly Keris, who worked for Fauna and Flora, and she kind of worked directly with us. She came up for visits, as you can see. Ice cream was a vital part of these strategic discussions, but also getting in the water, meeting in different community spaces for her to share her expertise on how to kind of build and make sure what we were building was going to be sustainable for us to keep going once the project ended. And it was thanks to that capacity building grant that we were able to get things like our beautiful websites, which we're extremely proud of. And I'll definitely share the link at the end, but please do go and have a look through. It's a great way to kind of get an introduction into what we're doing. And then when I was going to start putting pictures of everything, I was like, oh, that's going to be a lot. So I actually grabbed some screenshots of our funders report back to them, as it just kind of covers all the stuff that it helped with. So we had things like an accountant to help us with our first kind of year of accountancy. It helped us get Microsoft accounts, email set up with Ionis, and it actually got us a laptop as well, which was amazing. And it also made us start to think how we want to procure things. So the laptop actually came from a kind of circular local group who refurbish laptops to then sell on for charity. So we're like, that's brilliant. That's the ethos we want to bring in as well. It also paid for some of our time, which again, I think is so important in the conversation around coastal communities just now, around capacity. Because a lot of this stuff, writing policies and getting everything, that's not the stuff we volunteer for, is it? We want to be out on the water, out on the beach. So actually having some funding available to pay for your time for that really did help us as a group. We also managed to get things like outdoor first aid training done for all of us, which was amazing. And we got finance training, as well as then kind of that upskilling of how to upload things to a website and how to make those changes. So again, it was really useful for all of us as directors to be giving so much, but I felt we were all getting so much as well, thanks to the Kickstarter project. So this is the part where we're going to show our community film, which again was funded by the capacity building project. The sound sharing unfortunately isn't working, but what I might do is I'm going to share it so you can kind of see it, and I'm going to talk to it a little bit, even if it's just to kind of bring you all to the Moray Firth a little bit more, and you can see some of these places that I'm talking about. So I'm just going to click play, and then I'll maybe just switch off my sound so you kind of don't get the awkward microphone sound. But this was thanks to the capacity building project that we were able to kind of procure a local Inverness-based filmmaker, and we had 2 filming days. We had one up on the north side of the Moray Firth and then one down on the south. And it was such a good chance for all of our volunteers to come along and get stuck in. And those who were brave enough got behind the camera for us to talk about what it meant to them. So we had Jill there, who her favorite quote was, "Everyone has a giggle, a right giggle," which is just great. You see Lynn there laughing away. There's Terry, one of our directors. And I guess it's a bit of a personal thing for me. That's my dad there as well, as part of this Moray Ocean Community journey. My dad's retired. He's obviously based up here, and he's really got stuck into it as well, which has just been amazing for me to see. This was us when we were doing the shore watching down at Channery Point. You might have heard, one of the best places to see our resident bottlenose dolphin population. And that was Maggie there talking about the joy of getting in the water, even if there's nothing to see. It's getting in and having fun. And Tim here has been such a brilliant advocate for the swims that we do. Sometimes what we do is just a bit of social. We meet up, we go for a swim, and we go for coffee and cake afterwards. And yeah, Tim was just like, "Mock have got me hooked on cold water swimming." And I think once people start getting in the water and we can start introducing them to snorkeling, which is something Lynn has been such a massive kind of advocate for, it really helps people realize, oh, there's all this amazing stuff underneath the water. But using kit like the bathoscope as well, we're trying to keep it all as accessible as possible for people. And that's something that Robin, one of my fellow directors, is really keen on, is the education side. So we have been working with schools. We've gone out with kind of STEM days and work experience days. A lot of the time you're just at the coast, and if you're doing something, families will come along and be like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And we end up showing them what we found, and it's really lovely. And then Daisy's made a good point for us here about it being like we do it any day. So whether you work weekends or during the week, we sometimes do things during the week, in the evenings, at weekends, online, to really make sure that everybody can take part. And then that's Orshi, our newest director. She was a volunteer for whale and dolphin conservation, so it's been brilliant having her come in with her experience for the cetaceans and the shore watch kind of side, introducing people to that element of citizen science. And then this is the lovely Isla, and this is a great chance to introduce one of their key partners, which is Mossy Earth. Mossy Earth are obviously a global kind of charity, but they've got their Wilder Firths project here in the Moray Firth that's looking to restore seagrass and oysters. So it's been brilliant to upskill our volunteers and get a chance to get involved in the work that they're running. And there's Captain Seagrass himself. This is Francis, who's obviously really led on all of our seagrass work and has said that's one of the key aims of MOC, was to highlight seagrass in the Moray Firth. A lot of people in Scotland kind of thought about the West Coast or the Northern Isles. No one thought about the Moray Firth for seagrass, and he's definitely changed that for us. And then this is Gianluca, one of our other directors as well. And again, he's just really passionate about making sure all of our events are something that people want to come to. So whether it is just a rock pooling BioBlitz, a beach walk, or actually getting things like the paddle boards out and going snorkeling, it's something really important that everybody feels like, yeah, I can go and give that a go, which is kind of what I'm just talking about in the video here. The fact that we've got our WhatsApp group, our mailing list, we've got our online talks similar to the one that we've got going on tonight for yourselves, as well as then all the actual events that we run in loads of different locations along the Moray Firth too. There's Terry and Lynn looking very cool, and there's Sunnies and there's Sups. And hopefully the video just kind of gives you a little bit of our energy, I suppose, our vibe, what we're all about, where, you know, none of us are experts in anything, but everybody's an expert in something, and they come and bring that along, even if that expertise is just, this is my local beach, and I know exactly what's going on here, and I'd like to tell you about it. For example, my dad's been able to kind of talk about things with Phil from Fintorn, who've lived there for a long time and can say, "Oh no, I remember when there were blue mussels here." And we're like, right, well, let's go see if we can find them and see if they're still there as well. So we'll make sure that the YouTube link comes to you. It definitely is a bit nicer with the music and people's voices rather than just hearing me wittering on the whole time as well. So please do take a watch. But I thought it was just quite nice so you could actually see some of the different scenes around the Moray Firth as well. So then we kind of talked about fauna and flora earlier on. And one of the key things I think for us in Scotland is we have the Coastal Communities Network, which is this amazing network that Fauna and Flora kind of founded and has now become its own thing and its own charity. And Moray Ocean Community has then joined this network. And it's brilliant because we can share expertise across all the different coastal community groups in Scotland. And then we can also apply for funding from CCN. And we can also influence things like policy and campaigns if we wish to. As Moray Ocean Community, we very much kind of taken the view that we're very much about gathering the evidence and having that evidence be used by the different experts as well. But there's been brilliant things like there's an annual CCN gathering that we get to go to every year and meet other coastal community groups in person and share learning. And they also usually then have experts that come along. So we had Nature Scott come along to the last one to kind of show us how to do some of the monitoring methodologies that are in their book as well. So finding these networks and getting everybody all kind of plugged in really does definitely help. And then back to our lovely Sea Changers. Again, I thought I'd share a few of the other things that they funded for us, which has maybe been a bit unusual, but also really good fun. So they actually funded us purchasing two stand-up paddle boards, two SUPs, actually to help with our seagrass and snorkeling work. These pictures are from Fyntorn Nature Reserve, which is a bay near me. And we discovered that there is intertidal dwarf seagrass there. Now, because it's quite a muddy sediment, we're always quite worried about walking over it. So we were like, oh, wouldn't it be easy if we just snorkeled over it to kind of do the monitoring? But then we were like, oh, you're taking quite a lot of kit, the quadrats and the camera and the GPS and stuff. So we took out my paddleboard once and we were like, oh, this is so much easier. Everything can go on the board. And what we were finding, people who maybe get cold, because actually once you start snorkeling for monitoring, you're not moving a lot, so you get pretty cold. We thought this will be ideal. People can do what Lynn's doing in that photo, lie on the board, lean over, and be able to monitor, take pictures and look at it from the board. So those two stand-up paddleboards have been fantastic for us to help people who maybe aren't as confident in the water feel like they can come and get involved, as well as then protecting the environment that we're actually trying to monitor and find out more about. And then I think as part of a coastal community group, the more you do, the more you learn, but also I think the more aware you get about the responsibility that you maybe hold. So up until this point, all of us had just gone snorkeling together. We didn't really have, strict protocols or any training. Everyone had just kind of learnt themselves and were going out. And we thought as we were starting to get bigger, and if we want to take people in the water, our public liability insurance wasn't going to be covering it unless we were trained. So we were having a look to see, right, what training is out there? What can we do to make sure that people can get in the water safely, both for themselves and to make sure that Moray Ocean Community is doing everything right? So again, thanks to Sea Changers, they funded us doing the BZAC, which is the British Sub-Aqua Club snorkel guiding course. So this was 2 weekends in Hopeman with a little bit of online training beforehand to become qualified snorkel guides with BZAC. I would wish to say that it was sunny the entire time like it was in that bottom photo, but unfortunately not. We were in the harbour quite a lot for doing all of the skills. But Marge was great from BZAC to then help us learn about how to run snorkels safely. And now we can get insurance to cover us so we can start taking people in the water. And this will be great for those of us who wanted to take people in who maybe hadn't been before. And now we have the skills to be able to do that confidently and safely for them. So again, I think being part of a coastal community group is all looking for these opportunities to upskill yourself and then to be able to help other people get into the marine environment and fall in love with it, just the same as all of us. Now, I've mentioned a few of them kind of over the talks, but I just thought I'd do a snapshot of all the different activities that we do actually run as Moray Ocean Community. So we've covered the seagrass surveys quite a lot, but the invasive species monitoring is something that Terry has run really well. So unfortunately, we've discovered slipper limpets, an invasive species in the Cromarty Firth, and this was down to one of the mock volunteers finding it, reporting it, and now we're starting to monitor how many there are. It's opened up conversations with Scottish Government and with the local kind of council and monitoring, and it was all down to volunteers again. It's about showing that anybody and everybody can make a difference. And by having Moray Ocean Community as a kind of place that people can share those questions, we can then go out and then be able to prove that hypothesis, or we can actually go out and start monitoring it for ourselves if nobody else is. So the invasive species monitoring is definitely around the slipper limpet kind of work in the Cromarty Firth, although there have been reports that they might have been seen on the other side of the Firth as well. So again, now that we're increasing awareness of what slipper limpets are, what they look like, we're hoping that more people will be aware and report them if we start to see them elsewhere. And then obviously more citizen science that we absolutely love. Basically, if there's a coastal citizen science project going, we want to get stuck in and give it a go. So we've done things like the Big Seaweed Search, which looks at indicator species, and that's run by the Natural History Museum and the Marine Conservation Society. I couldn't obviously set up a coastal community group and not do beach clean. So we still do beach watch as Moray Ocean Community as well to make sure that we're getting litter data from the Moray Firth into that big national data set. We also do Shore Watch, which is the whale and dolphin surveys with WDC. We do the Project Seagrass Spotter. We've got a kelp project that we're going to be starting soon as well. The Scottish Marine Animal Stranding Scheme has got a beach track app that we've downloaded that we're going to start doing walks on as well. And then we kind of feed all of that into when we do the high school field trips and the community talks that we do as well. I think probably a highlight for many of our volunteers was when we took out, I think, was it 75 pupils from Inverness Royal Academy and did a citizen science round robin of doing seagrass surveys, shorewatch surveys, and beachwatch surveys. And there was a couple of lads who clearly were not very interested in taking part in stuff, and we just kind of let them enjoy the beach. By the end of the session, one of them had found an animal skull and ran up to one of our volunteers, being like, "Oh, what is this? This is so exciting!" And it's like, that's why we're here. We're giving people the opportunity who maybe wouldn't think that they're interested in the beach and the coast to get that passion and that interest to figure something out. And I think our volunteers really enjoyed that experience. So it's definitely something we'd like to do more of. So going back to the community interest company element of it, there is then the formal side of it as well. So we had to do an annual report and we had to pull together our accounts. Now, this was kind of like an annual year in review that we then like to share with our volunteers. And also, it's kind of good for us, isn't it? To take a moment and look back as to what did we achieve, pull all these things together, and you're like, oh, we did quite a lot last year, didn't we? So we did the 8 seagrass surveys, and what was quite exciting, as well as doing the intertidal stuff, we did do quite a lot of subtidal snorkeling as well. And that's been really exciting. So we've actually been working with the Army dive team, as well as the local Burghead Aqua Club for them going down to map the stuff that we can't get to snorkeling. We then had loads of different mock events. So this was just counting up. We managed to have nearly 300 people over the year come and get stuck in and say hello, which is brilliant. And then we had 63 volunteers doing 14 different surveys. We do the seaweed one. Oh, the oyster shell citizen science is one that we started in the Moray Firth. So this was a project started by Harriet Watt and the Marine Conservation Society with the Restoration Forth team, which is a big project in the Firth of Forth, looking to restore native oysters and seagrass. And the oyster shell survey was super easy. It's a 10-meter quadrat on the beach, and you're counting up how many native oysters, saddle oysters, Pacific oysters, and horse mussel shells that you find. So super easy to get people engaged with. And then because of Mossy Earth and because of the Deep project at Glenmorangie Distillery, doing native oysters in the Moray Firth, we were like, well, can we do it here too? Surely it'd be quite interesting. And what was fascinating, some of the oysters that we found, some of the academics at Harriet Watt estimate to between 3,000 and 5,000 years old, which sparked a whole other conversation about the history of the marine environment in the Firth as well. So I think citizen science really starts to open up all these doors, all these different questions. I think another one in here that we're all quite proud of was we took part in a radio interview with BBC Radio Scotland. They came down while we were doing some seagrass surveying and asked us questions about what we were up to and the importance of coastal community groups. So again, you don't know what might be coming round the corner, but I think it's brilliant that coastal communities are getting asked more and more for their views, their opinions, and to help gather the kind of the community view on a certain issue as well. And then we also kind of promote other activities as well. So the salt marsh restoration was the Greener Shores project. So it's not necessarily just all projects that we're running. If someone else is doing something cool in the Moray Firth, we share it on the WhatsApp group, we share it on social media, and volunteers get stuck into anything and everything. So partnerships for us are super important, and we kind of met up with so many different ones, not necessarily all just in the Moray Firth either. And these are sometimes bigger organisations with paid staff and projects, but they might also just be other coastal community groups like ourselves as well. So again, making all those connections and meeting all these brilliant people is such a bonus. So probably thinking about what we've been doing recently, these are the kind of the latest news items that we've had up on the website. Again, just to give you a bit of a flavour of what kind of activities we do. So the seagrass restoration core transplanting has been written by Phil, one of our volunteers. And this is Mossy Earth that is running these experience days. Plant your own wee seagrass meadow, where you actually get to go and see how they kind of manage the seagrass, do the coring, and are actually starting to do the planting as well. So I'm excited. I'm booked on to do one of those volunteer days near the end of the month, so I'll be able to share my story then as well. We had some fun launching our Moray Ocean Community film as well. We got a few people together in Inverness and we watched the film and had a bit of a celebratory kind of reflection on the year. But we also do a lot of work with students as well. So the zine workshop was really interesting. So that was a PhD student coming up using zines, which I realized was short for magazines. They're mini magazines for them to gather information. So we had to create this little zine and she would ask us different questions and we had to draw or copy and paste stuff or any kind of things to interpret what our answers would be. And then she would take pictures and take that away as part of her research, which we find really interesting. And then we also put on training opportunities. So for the likes of the Shore Watch training, we'll get in touch with WDC to say, look, we've got a few more people who'd like to learn how to do Shore Watch. Can you put on a training day? And they'll be able to do that for us as well, which is brilliant. And then you just don't know who's in your community. This Seagrass Meadows piece written by Ree, one of our volunteers, she actually gets to dive Seagrass Meadows as part of her job. So she got to share all this amazing footage and photos of the amazing seagrass beds in the Moray Firth and could share that with us. So I think another joy about having Moray Ocean Community all together is bringing people that have all this amazing expertise or all have all of this resource to share that if we didn't get set up, they maybe wouldn't know who to share it with. So I'm nearly finished, I promise. But just for looking ahead, we've got a really exciting start to 2026 because we've got funding from the Protected Areas Foundation. And this has been set up to really help communities connect to their protected areas and maybe look at community-led protection as well. So we're going to be looking at running a coastal film festival, showing our film and other coastal films at Eden Court in Inverness. We're going to be really ramping up that invasive species monitoring. We're going to be really trying to connect all the citizen science work into the protected areas across the Moray Firth. I have to put my hand up. I don't even know where all the protected areas are and what they're protected for. So we'll be able to start to piece that together for the community. And we'll also then be able to get people out snorkeling in our amazing protected areas to really get people in the marine environment. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you. This is a picture of one of my local favourite beaches at Fintorn. It's been absolutely amazing to come along. More than happy to answer any questions at all. And if you are ever up in the Moray area, you'll definitely have to look us up and come and say hello.
That is magic. Thank you so much for that, Catherine. That was absolutely brilliant to see just the breadth of everything that you're getting up to up there. That's the amount of work that you're all doing is absolutely incredible. So really lovely to see that. And
Oh, thank you.
before we jump into the questions, I'm sure we'll get a few there. I just wanted to quickly highlight to those attending tonight, just if you want to participate and get a bit more involved, I know some of you are already doing that with ourselves, but through Stronger Shores, we have so many opportunities to get involved. So we've got our seagrass work down in Hartlepool area with Tees Rivers Trust. We've got our oyster work up in Sunderland. That's with the Wild Oyster Project. And then from next month, I'll be leading a few different sessions, training folks up, getting folks ready for our shore search sessions as well, which will be exciting, but biodiversity monitoring. Durham Wildlife Trust, we also have a little bit of that shore watch that you were talking about, Catherine, with the cetaceans there. And we have our beach cleans at Durham Trust as well. There are so many ways to get involved across the Northeast, taking action to help your blue coastal spaces there. I'm going to jump off there with just a question for yourself there, Catherine. So, just wondering, really, setting all this up, it must have taken a lot of work, like you were saying, and brilliant being able to set up a CIC and get paid doing that. But beforehand, when it was just a sort of a concept and an idea, was it quite a lot of time out of everyone's lives to be able to sort of start to piece all of that together?
It was. It was definitely a team effort. And although we managed to get some kind of money for our time, we were only talking about maybe having like half a day or a day's worth of work being covered, which it almost is like it's just the really nice kind of being able to have that. But you're right, it would have probably been like weeks worth of work when you put it all together. But I think what really helped was having like a really core group of us. So there was like always 4 or 5 people there ready to take on different things. And I think we had like such a different background of people. We had people with kind of local authority experience, myself with like third sector. We had two from kind of private sector, but from kind of surveying, like offshore surveying kind of work. And then we had like an academic background as well. So having all these kind of skills coming in, I think having somebody who also has like a community engagement background has been so useful just to remind us that we are just a coastal community group, guys. We don't have to be perfect as an organization. We are all volunteers, and sometimes that's so useful to remind ourselves. So the CIC did take us quite a while to set up, and yeah, if we were all working full time on it, we probably could have done it in a week and it would be fine. But it was getting that balance of every time we saw each other, you didn't want to be there round a laptop typing things. You wanted to go for a swim, and have to admit, I'm not quite sure what it's like on the coastline down you, but coastal saunas have exploded across the Moray Firth. So sauna and swims are now definitely very much a board meeting prerequisite.
They are starting to pop up around our way as well, which is quite exciting. I'll be giving it a bash just once it warms up a little bit around about here. We've got a question here from Neil asking, in terms of invasive species, so how did they get introduced and are they causing much damage to the native species populations?
That's a really good question. So we assume that they were introduced with boats coming into the Cromarty Firth. It's a very big port, it's very busy. So it's going to have come probably from America, from the Americas, coming across into the Cromarty Firth there. The reason we're so concerned about them is the impact that they will have on any native oyster restoration. So again, this is everything that I've learned. Definitely not an expert, but what we've been told is that the slipper limpets basically like secrete a mucus kind of thing, which helps them build stuff, but then that would basically smother any native oysters who would be trying to create a reef or a bed as well. So that's why, especially us working with Mossy Earth, has been so important because they want to restore native oysters. There used to be massive native oyster beds in the Cromarty Firth. So having this slipper limpet kind of concern is a real one. We're not sure how long they've been here for. But you know, we've now been monitoring them for about 2 years. So it's one of the hard things, I guess, from citizen science, because as well as when we're monitoring the slipper limpets, we are removing the live ones as well, which does seem so strange as a marine conservation group to be. And that's such an important like engagement and education tool as well, that we want to protect the species that are here, that should be here. As well. But that's the main concern for the slipper limpets is the native oysters for sure.
No, absolutely. And just another one from myself, if I may, actually.
Yeah.
So you were the amount of citizen science opportunities, and you kind of inferred almost that it's kind of you saw something happening and you almost came up with a way to study or observe it or to collect it. Was it quite difficult to be able to did you formalize that almost, or is it just going out and you had that question in your head and you just capture the data and send it off to whoever you think would be interested in that? What was the sort of process behind that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So a lot of the established citizen science projects are great because there's obviously the methodology to follow, the data portals to fill in. Nature Scott is the same. When you're kind of monitoring, they usually basically have spreadsheets to fill in. There's definitely like a spectrum of ease for citizen science, and I think government bodies are getting there, but they're still maybe not fully set up to understand how community groups work and the easiest way to kind of submit that data. The oyster shell survey one was a great one. That was just through my experience of work, knowing that that was happening in the Forth. And I was like, this is so easy. Can we not just do it in the Moray Firth as well? And we got approval that yes, you can do it and gather the data there. But for the slipper limpets, that's actually what we're in the middle of now, is discussing what is the protocol? Like, how do you want to monitor it? Is it transects? Is it quadrats? Is it presence, absence? And for us, we kind of are creating it ourselves as well, because it's one of these things we also know for regulatory bodies to produce something, it takes a long time sometimes, doesn't it, to go through hoops to get signed off. Whereas we're like, we can be out there now. So there'll probably be a little bit of change, but yeah, a lot of it is drawing on the kind of science background from a few of our volunteers to be like, what is, a kind of scientifically robust method to monitor it, but through that coastal community lens of knowing we're not fully fledged scientists with a full grant to be able to go out monitoring every hour of the day. And I think for anyone who's created a citizen science project, it can be as kind of intense as you want it or need it to be. And I think it's so nice being able to have the options across the whole spectrum. And we find that a few people start at maybe something really easy, like going for a beach walk, and the beach track app is just like a Strava for the beach. You just record your walk, and if you see a stranding, you report it. So that's super easy. And then the next time they go out, they're like, "Oh, what's that oyster shell counting thing? Can I give that a go?" And then all of a sudden they realize that they're doing a full seagrass mapping exercise, and I'm like, "Hey, look at you now." And I think people will always come up with new things. I think for us, we've also been super conscious though that we never want to recreate something that is already established. Because I guess from a data point of view, you still want the data to be comparable and to be able to track trends. So the Slip Olympics for us is a new thing because we literally just couldn't find anyone else who had any sort of protocol for it. But if someone else has suggested, something, we've kind of done a bit of a search and been like, actually, there's already this one, so we'll follow that as well. But yeah, it's it's quite interesting, almost a little bit scary that it's like, oh, it's up to us. Okay, let's just give it a go.
Oh, magic. And we've got another question here popped up from Northumberland Wildlife Trust, which I'm going to assume is Natasha there. Apologies if not. And asking, what was your biggest challenge as a group in the first year or so, and how did you overcome it? And also adding in fantastic work. So great to see.
Oh, thank you. That's a really good question. I think our biggest challenge was the numbers. It was the finance stuff. None of us had any sort of finance background. Like a few of us are project managers, so knew how to put a budget together. But in regards to, setting up the bank account actually was probably one of the longest, hardest drawn out things to do. And even it's now having a bank account, getting new people on it and off it. So I know that that's not unusual. I think that's a very common thing across all kind of community groups and even small charities and stuff. It is something that I think could definitely be improved. And I think for us, having the capacity grant to get the finance training from, we actually had a dedicated CIC accountant. So she was really familiar with how CICs worked and how it was a little bit different to the reporting for charities. And just having someone to be on the end of an email to be like, is this right? What are we doing? But I think now we're on the other side of it. It's also, oh, it's not as scary as you think. When you're having to submit accounts and different forms to Companies House, it all feels very serious and you're worried about getting something wrong. And then you kind of do it and you're like, oh, oh, that's it. Nobody's come knocking at my door saying you've done it wrong or you're getting told off. But I do think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of groups. We sadly need to get more accountants involved in ocean conservation, don't we? Because if we could have people who are people who could do this in 5 minutes probably to them, would be great. So if any of you are accountants or financial savvy, you will be definitely snapped up by any growing coastal community group.
Absolutely, we'll get them onto that one. That would be magic. So it would. We've got a question here from Neil, which I think would best fit your MCS hat,
Oh
actually.
yeah.
So asking about beach cleans and litter surveys. So is pollution a big problem in the Moray Firth given the low population density compared to somewhere like the Tees Estuary, surrounded by large industrial towns?
That's a really good question, and you're totally right. I've kind of done most of my beach cleaning across Scotland, and it's like no beach is the same. So whether it's the volume of litter or the type of litter that's there. So we are really lucky in the Moray Firth. I would say that the majority of our beaches are probably definitely cleaner than the national average and definitely cleaner than probably high population density estuaries, firths as well. But sometimes we almost then have different types of litter. So a lot of them maybe near the ports and harbours, we do find higher levels of fishing gear, ropes, that kind of thing. Or there's certain areas that are just really hard to get to. So they start to accumulate over time, and you would literally need someone to abseil down a cliff to be able to get it as well. But I think, to be fair, for our beach cleans, for the surveys that we do, they're all manageable. Whereas I know there's some places, if you try to do a 100-meter survey, it's not possible because of the amount of litter. So I think litter for us in the Moray Firth, kind of speaking as Moray Ocean Community a little bit as well, it's probably a lower priority for us versus things like the invasive species and the restoration kind of efforts. But as we always say with citizen science, we haven't surveyed every beach in the Moray Firth. There may be a beach somewhere that is absolutely awful, and we want to go out there. But I think it's also the importance of continuing to monitor, because I was actually out trialing a new microplastic survey at a local beach recently, and I found my first nurdle in the Moray Firth, which are these little pre-production plastic pellets that you've seen spilled sadly up and down the coastline. That's the first time I've ever seen it in the Moray Firth after surveying for years and years here. So it also goes to show that things could probably change quite quickly. Um, but I think this is where having localized data is so important. So if you would like data for your local area, reach out to the Marine Conservation Society and ask for the data. And we kind of do it down to local authority level. And that's so useful to kind of see what type of litter is turning up. Are there local solutions? Because a lot of the time we're just working on that national policy level, but that data is there for anybody to use. So if that would be something that would be of interest, please do reach out and we can definitely get that data over to you.
Thank you. I suppose that raises a sort of a point about those marine community groups as well, and that the type of work is not a uniform around the country. It's very much focused on what area that you're in, as to what problems, what solutions that you're trying to work to overcome to better your blue spaces, really.
Exactly. And I think it's what you care about as well. That's, I think, the joy about being a coastal community group. We do what we're passionate about, what we're interested in, what we want to learn about, what we want to protect. We're writing our own strategy. We don't have a strategy, but, we don't have strategies and objectives or business motivations to kind of work towards. So it's also, and sometimes you can get wrapped up in stuff as well. Things move very fast, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this isn't actually what I want to be doing. So you can actually take that time to like, oh no, I was actually really wanting to do this, so I'm just going to start doing that now. I guess the only thing now with getting funding in is we then do have to be careful to make sure that we do what we said we would do to our funders. If it's stuff that's not funded work, we can do whatever we like. But now that we're more formal and we're getting funding in, that's the only thing that kind of makes us think, ah, yes, this is what we said. But I have to know all the funders that we've worked with so far have been so great at being flexible if things haven't worked out or things needed to change. So I do think there's certain funders, and I think funders as a group are getting better, especially working with coastal community groups, that yeah, things are going to change. Everyone's volunteering. Like there has to be that flexibility of either extending deadlines or maybe saying, actually, can we spend the money on this instead? Because that way we've discovered we don't want to do this now. And every time we find the funders are like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Anything that can help you keep doing ultimately what you are doing about connecting people to the sea and getting people out there, they're really happy with.
Magic. Thank you, Catherine. So, if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to pop them in just now, and I'll just do that little shameless plug again that we do have so many opportunities to get involved. I know some of you are already doing that with us, but like I say, we'll have our shore searches coming up soon. Our partners on Stronger Shores, oysters, seagrass, we'll be doing all that. Catherine, I might pick your brains later on about that kelp project because that sounds like up our street as well, which would be fab. But I would just like to say a massive, massive thank you, Catherine. It's been absolutely brilliant to have you along today. Fascinating to find out what others around the country are doing there, and it sounds like you're doing some amazing work. So, really lovely to have you. And yeah, folks, please do get in touch if you would like to get involved for your marine spaces as well, and we will do our best to kind of to work with you to work to do that. But I'll put my email in there if anyone's interested. And like I say, all those opportunities coming up, or even just now, we're already doing them, oysters, seagrass, and all that. But Catherine, I will let you head off just now. Thank you again, and it's been wonderful having you.
No, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everyone for coming along. Maybe we'll need to find some funding to do a Durham Murray exchange at some point.
I like the sound of that one.
Oh, thank you so much.
Been a pleasure. Bye for now, Catherine. And
Bye.
bye, everyone. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for coming along to the last of our Stronger Shores talk series as well. So it's been a total pleasure having everyone along to these. Like I say, it gets us through those cold winter months, but please do keep an eye on the Stronger Shores page, on the Durham Wildlife Trust events as well, because we'll be doing more in-person stuff very soon now. Hopefully the weather will be changing, so next month I'll be popping up soon some shore search training sessions, get us all thinking about our coastal species again, a little bit of ID, a little bit about how we go and do that survey techniques there. And like I say, keep an eye for any other events as well. But have a wonderful evening, everyone. It's been a total pleasure, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Good night, folks.